Hi there, and welcome to the Digital Strategy and Growth Podcast. My name is Chris Good, and today we're going to talk about 3 ways that clients typically sabotage their own website, which is the core element in any decent digital presence. Now, this isn't about me moaning about clients. This is about informing business owners of how they can sometimes interfere and upset the balance that you would have in really good web design. Now, there's one particular element of this that I want to go into in more depth. That's the meat of this episode. But as I planned to talk about this, I had 2 others come to mind, and I thought, well, this reminds me of a Venn diagram I created to actually communicate with clients about the balancing of components in web design. And I thought, well, actually, let's go over that, and then we'll cover a few bases of how really business owners sometimes need to just sort of butt out and let somebody do the job for the sake of bringing a good ROI in. I don't want that to sound rude, but to refer to a previous episode, I mentioned a previous episode was about when you should DIY something or when you should hire in a professional. And in that, I used an example of building a little garden wall for a flower bed or laying a patio in my garden. Now, for the laying a patio, it would make more sense for me to hire in a professional who knows how to do this well, who will make the best of the money that's provided into it, and would reduce the risk of mistakes that could be, bring in more cost. And so here's just a thought. It would be absurd to think of me hiring in a professional to do a job I know that I can't do because I don't understand all of the intricacies of how it works. It would be an absurd idea for me to then stand in the garden while they're laying the patio and second guess every decision they're making, make suggestions as to how they should space out the stones or what they should use as materials, how they should work towards this professional finish, which I know I don't know how to do. But once they're on the job, it's not helpful if I then say, right, let's have a patio review session where I'm going to come along with my ideas and say what I think should change in your process or, Now, this is a common occurrence in web design, and it's insult aside or frustration aside, it doesn't help get the results that you want from your portfolio items, either visually or in how you would like a website to perform for a client and bring in that ROI. So if you can relate to the absurdity of that kind of picture, that's what I'm bringing to you now. Let's say you've brought a website professional, and it's not just someone who will build a website with Wix to make it look pretty. You'll understand that in a second. But somebody who wants to work with you in partnership with your company in order to help you win digitally. There are different components to web design. So if you're viewing to process, taking in this podcast on video on YouTube version, you'll now be able to see a Venn diagram. I'll describe it, but I'll describe it. You'll understand what I mean. But of course, if you want to check out a visual, just hit the show notes and you'll go to my website and see this image. But a Venn diagram, typically, there are 3 circles. One of them is for visuals, so animations, aesthetics, just the colors used, the layouts, those sort of aspects. Then we have SEO optimization and ranking. So this is another component of website design. You would want somebody to be tending to that whilst building your website, ensuring that it has the capacity and ability to rank in search engines and, bring in traffic. And then there's another component to web design, which is more about the psychological factor. It's the customer journey, the potential for conversion. So a conversion focused website, something that would audience capture. Now, this is the one that I really want this episode to be about. But the other 2 ways that clients can kind of compromise this balance came to mind as I was coming to the microphone. So I thought I would approach all 3. but yes, the customer journey, conversion, and audience capture is really what I'd like to concentrate on today. But first of all, let's cover how business owners and clients can really sabotage their own digital presence and ROI from interfering in these aspects. So these are different patio stones. Now, in the middle of this Venn diagram is the perfect balance of web design. It tends to all of these different aspects, and when you focus too much on one, you're going to compromise the other. That's the thing to consider. And so sometimes you have to compromise the perfect aesthetic in order to improve the customer journey and therefore conversion. Sometimes you have to focus more on SEO and optimization, so getting a correct heading structure that would assist Google in loving your website. And so that could have a little impact on customer journey and conversion, but it's different parts of the website. But usually that would have more of an impact on the aesthetics. So you might not want to have a heading plastered onto a particular section on the site. You might feel it upsets the prettiness of it, but it's essential for proper conversion and certainly for SEO ranking. So there is a balance. This is where you need to kind of compromise and create the perfect web design. So let's get into this. So animations, aesthetics, so really the visuals. Today I had an experience with a client, and it's a very typical one. The most common thing that I would encounter on a first sort of design review is, can we make our logo bigger on the header? Now, often, there are two things with a logo, actually. Sometimes people want it to be in the middle and really large, but essentially business owners want their logo to be big so that when somebody comes to the site, that they're dazzled by this amazing logo. Now, often logos are not that as impressive as people think, but the other thing is that in terms of customer journey and the potential to convert, communicating important information, a big logo is not important. That probably one of the least important parts of the website at this point is the logo. Somebody has come to your web page because they've clicked for a certain reason, whether they've jumped to a blog post because they're looking for information, or whether they've jumped to more of a sales or service page. They're not looking to see the logo. They're looking to see or read text and visuals that are interesting to them and helping them with their problem. The problem with increasing the size of a logo on, say, the website header is that more often than not, to make the client happy, you would have to increase the size of the header. And what this does is, throughout the entire website, it takes up the actual screen space that you have to effectively communicate to the user. So that the actual usable screen size becomes quite letterboxy. It means that everything's a bit more cramped. It's not as nice an experience, but it's really just wasted space having this big bar at the top with lots of padding, but a nice big fat logo. It's certainly not the most important thing that you should focus on or even get somebody's attention onto on your web page. So that's one of the times when you will feel when a design review will really be that. It's all focused on the visuals, and there can be lots of different factors that compromise the idea of proper conversion, either from getting in the way of proper conversion or just completely trashing it. Another one is, I feel like there's too much white space. Now, white space from a visual design and communication view, you need the space around elements so that your eye will be drawn to it. A website without enough space around different elements, it's difficult to group things or get attention to groups of information, groups of elements that convey an important part of information. But also it starts to cramp on the eyes. So again, it's a very common thing where clients feel that there's too much white space, and they make a demand for the white space to be cramped up, to be done away with, make it all a bit tighter. Another visual that clients will often ask for is making everything pop. So, I'd like more darker color. I would like bigger text. That's a very common one. And in the end, you end up with a big logo homepage with lots of shouty text that's all cramped into spaces. Now that isn't a pleasant place to be, and it directly affects not only the customer journey and the conversion possibilities, because people aren't enjoying it, so the communication isn't so effective, but also, when people are bouncing and leaving that web page, it's not going to help the future SEO ranking, because SEO will focus on user behavior on a website, and so it has a very real effect on how effective a website is, either for bringing people in or for conversion. So that's a little bit of a way that clients can really, for want of a better word, interfere by making lots of visual aesthetic demands that actually compromise the other important components of a web design. Then we have SEO optimization and ranking. So one of the biggest things I see here is that SEO optimization and ranking, this is top of funnel. So if you want to understand a bit more about top of funnel and visibility for your business, this is how you actually make your business visible. You ensure that it can be ranked in Google, and that it would not only rank for keywords, but also be effective in how people can click through and what they're going to find there. Now, a problem is that copywriting is a skill unto itself. Copywriting, producing all of the text on a website, it's incredibly hard. And if you're going to do it correctly, you need to understand SEO tools. You need to look for keywords that are effective, both long tail and short tail. And if you don't know what they are, all the more reason why you should not be writing your own blog posts or the web page copy on your service pages, because we need these to appeal first to Google, but then there's a real subtle balance that needs to be achieved, so that when blog posts or service pages actually do attract attention from users and they come along to your site, it does need to be helpful content. So we don't want it to be keyword stuffed. Now, one of the biggest problems that I see with clients and business owners really is that this is where they want to shortcut the process and save a few pennies. Now, in my view, you can build a lovely website with placeholder text. It can look fine enough. If you're going to be using paid ads, if you're going to be using different methods of creating that awareness, and you're quite confident in producing good copy for your website that doesn't need to be SEO optimized and ranking, then you might get away with this. But it makes a lot more sense to get SEO optimized properly, tend to all of the meta titles, meta descriptions, and all of your schema code, making sure all of that's correct, so that your website is working for you, so that it goes out there into the world and brings top of funnel users to your site, so that you can start converting them into leads. But again, this is one of those things where people think, I'll just write it myself, and some of the copy that comes back is not very good, or these days it's just straight from ChatGPT, which is never ever going to help you convert or SEO optimize your website, unfortunately. So this is another way that clients actually sabotage the potential of their website to convert and to actually rank in Google, is that they want to take on the copywriting themselves and just have a go. In many ways, it's a bit like somebody paying to have a really amazing race car built for their team. They've started up a race team, they have an amazing race car built, there's great team in the pits, but then they decide that they want to drive it themselves around the tracks and be the star driver. Fact is, they're not a very good driver most of the time, and so you've got to make that decision really. Do you want to be the driver of a great car and not win any races, or do you want to hand that over to somebody else and invest in someone else's ability? Because building a website is one thing, actually using it is another. And the writing of copy and the SEO optimization, that's certainly a part of driving that car. Okay, so the last one that I really want to focus on, consulting the Venn diagram, is more of the customer journey and the conversion. Really, it's the audience capture, and this is what I'd really like to draw attention to. A lot of business websites, especially a lot of very amateur websites, the sorts that you see made on Wix and Squarespace and Shopify, they're all looking for one particular call to action. So it's usually book, buy, or call, and this is the main, or it's the only call to action that website visitors would have. Now, let's put this into perspective. You may have heard of Sabri Suby. He's a really fantastic marketer. And while there are lots of people that say this very thing, he's really put this well, and I'm just literally going to read it. It's called the Buyer Awareness Breakdown. And what we have to understand is that everything about your digital presence, your digital strategy, your website, which is your best digital asset, everything is concerned with the customer journey. It's about taking a customer from a visitor, somebody who's just looking for a solution to a problem, and they are now visiting your site, all the way to becoming a loyal customer of yours. Now, there's a journey in between that, and we need to always understand where the customer is in their journey. So this puts it into perspective. 3% are ready to buy now. Okay, so, and that's quite generous actually, but let's assume, let's put it into perspective, only 3% of people that might have found your website are ready to buy now. So they might have found your website because of a paid ad, or they might have Googled something and found your service page, and they are actually in the place where they might hit that big green call to action button. So they know they have a problem, they know the solution, and they're comparing providers, and your service seems to fulfill this. So they are ready to press a button. They want to solve their problem, and that you've got that person on your site. Now, these are fast mover people. These are the sort of people that might find you even on Instagram, and they're the ones that then, throw you a message in DMs and say, "Hi, saw your Instagram, love your business. I have this problem. I know you're a great provider of the solution. Let's talk." Okay, so they are ready to go. These people are the ones that come along to your website, and you've got the hero section with a big button saying book now, and they press it. 3% of the market there. The next 17% are problem aware. So they're open to solutions. They know that they have a problem. They are researching solutions. They're not ready to commit to a call yet. Okay, so they're actively researching. This is why they found your website. And by the way, these are the people that most likely have not typed something into Google that indicates they're ready to buy. So they're looking for information. What does that mean? It means that they are top of funnel type of inquiries. They've Googled something like, how would I fix blah, 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 or what are the best ways to do this? They're looking for solutions, but they're not really totally aware of what that might look like. And they're certainly not in the place where they want to open up the wallet just yet. So 17% are problem aware, and they're just researching solutions. Now, here's the thing. If somebody comes along to your site and they are problem aware but not ready to buy yet, and the only call to action that you have on your site is book now, buy now, call now, i.e. commit now, they're not going to press that button. It's too much of a leap for them. So it's important to understand then, let's say that like it is. If your website only has that main call to action, book, buy, or call, you have already missed out on what is estimated to be 17% of potential leads and customers, just because they're not ready to hit that button. 20% are product solution aware. Okay, so look at what that is. They are aware that solutions exist. They don't think it applies to them just yet. They need education about why it matters. So these are people that are aware of certain aspects, certain things of interest. They are researching, that they're aware that solutions exist, but they're not exactly completely convinced that it's something that they need. But they're certainly looking at the market and looking at the solutions, and they need education about why it matters. These people could most possibly be convinced, these people could be convinced that this is something that they need. Now, that could actually be someone who is using one type of product or service, and they are just sort of aware that there are others out there that are very similar, but they don't think it applies to them yet. But they could be tipped the right way. A certain bit of information could actually help them lean in and go, okay, maybe this actually applies to me. Then we've got 30% who are problem unaware. They have the problem, but they don't realize it. They need awakening content. So this could be things where they're quite oblivious to it, but if you release the correct social media, podcast, thought leadership, type of content, these people could actually go, that actually makes a little bit of sense. This is something I could do with. And then we've got 30% who are completely unaware. They're not your audience, so don't worry about it. But what that means is that out of 70% of people that are, if all of that adds up to 100, obviously, but if 30% are just not your audience yet, so don't waste resources. We have 30% who are problem unaware, 20% who are product solution aware, 17% problem aware, and 3% who are ready to buy now. So out of 70%, your website, your digital presence is only catering to 3%. Come on. Like, that is exactly why we need to form or create a website that is not only catering or serving that 3%. If you're happy with that, if you're happy with getting those 3% of leads and going for the bullseye every time, and that works for your business strategy, fine, fair enough. But if your problem in your business is that you don't feel that you have enough leads, you don't have enough options to be able to start scaling, then you are missing 67% of an available market. And by the way, that 3% is where all of the competition is. 3%, everybody is paying for Google ads, they're paying for Instagram ads, they're all going for that 3%. But there is a tremendous amount of the market that is not being catered to. So the question is, how can we cater to that remaining market, 67% of a potential market? How can you do that on your website? Well, the simplest way to put it, because I'm not going to go too in depth on it here, is to optimize your audience capture and your nurture campaign. So what that means is that the call to action button, the call to action effort, the conversion focus on your website should not just be call, book, buy, commit to me right now. That is not where your entire focus should be. While that should always be present on your website and easy to click as soon as somebody is ready, there is another journey that needs to be created, another customer journey that needs to be created on your website. So the real conversion that you're aiming for is not for that 3%, it's for the 67%. The real conversion that you're aiming for your digital marketing has to be proportionate to what you're trying to catch on to. So 3% of your effort, yes, get that big green button on your website. 3% of your digital marketing effort, absolutely put out some posts on your social media, put out blogs and pay for some Google ads to get that 3%. But 60% of your effort needs to be in providing lead magnets to turn leads into prospects. It needs to be in a nurture campaign, so your prospects need to be on your email list where you're communicating with them weekly, giving them free resources, nurturing them to understand who you are, to trust you, and to like you as a provider of the solution that they will come to want. So there are complexities there. Of course, I totally understand that. Now, I have gone more in depth into this on some blogs on my website, so feel free to have a look there on lead generation and the different stages of that. All of this ties together. It's about looking at the customer journey, your funnel, your customer journey funnel, how you are meeting the needs of the different customers or leads, prospects, customers throughout that funnel. It's how your business, how your presence is nurturing them towards further or initial sale. And once you understand this, it's incredibly simple. It's just about asking, what information are they needing right now? At what stage are they, and how can I help them know and love me more in order to move towards a sale? So I'm going to leave it there. That's a sort of a little look into web design and how a website as the main digital asset for your digital marketing, that should be crafted to tend to various different components, not just visuals, not just SEO, and not just conversion, but to balance all of these things together. And it's very easy for a business owner to start overlooking the build of the patio and second guessing the person doing all of the work. But you need to trust in some professionalism and trust that the real ROI, the real result, comes from shutting up, I suppose. But there are strategies to learn about and implement that are going to more effectively benefit the end outcome. And this is really important to remember. So the biggest thing to take away here is, do you have a nurture campaign in place? Do you have lead magnets in order to turn leads into prospects? And then do you have a nurture campaign to turn prospects into customers? If you don't, that is what serves that 67% of your current or potential customer base. Okay, so lead magnets, so blog posts, content marketing, lead magnets, and email nurture campaigns, that will serve the needs of 67% of your potential customer base. The 3% that are ready to just go now, they are the cherry on top. Okay, cool. So I'm going to leave it there. I'm trying to do shorter podcast episodes, but I can talk for a while on all of this. If you want to reach out in any way, if you'd like to optimize your current digital presence or make some improvements, then do get in touch with me. It would be great to have a conversation with you. I do have some freebies for you, so go along to chrisgood.online and you'll find some free resources there that will be helpful to you. Of course, including the actual blog posts where there's a lot to learn. Okay, cool. Get in touch if you need, and please like, share, subscribe, all of that stuff. And I hope you have a great day. Thanks. Bye.